things in the chat in just a moment for you. We are recording and live streaming. All right, welcome to today's session on integrating SEL into arts education as part of our DPI-wide SEL content area webinar series. This session will be recorded, shared on Facebook Live, as well as emailed to you later and available on our website under our webinar archive. Feel free to turn on your video if you're comfortable and use the chat window for any questions or anything that you want to share with us. We will address any unanswered questions throughout if we have time, and if not, at the end of the session. All right. I just want to take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Sayward Grinley, your K-12 dance and visual arts consultant. I'm joined by my team member, Brandon Rader, your K-12 music and theater arts consultant. We are led by our section chief, Dr. Lori Major Carlin, who's not here with us today, but we really appreciate all that she does for us. And then this entire SEL webinar series is led by our SEL practices lead and CASEL lead, and that is Beth Rice, the IABS consultant for DPI. There's a few links in the chat that we're going to place here for you, just a moment, so that you can access our listserv, our website, any other information that you might need. So give me just one moment to make sure I'm getting that to everyone. All right. And then today we are also joined by our document writers. Brandon, your screen for some reason is not showing the next page. Oh, there you go. Okay. So these are our guidance document writers. We wanted to acknowledge everyone that had a part in writing this, and also Michelle Burrows, who is the A+ director, and she is also here with us today. But we're going to hear specifically from just a few of these document writers, but we wanted to acknowledge everyone that had a part of them, and we're going to talk more about that later. All right, Brandon.
All right, we just wanted to share a few housekeeping reminders with you. We encourage video, but it's not required. In fact, since we're in a new platform, you might not be able to have video. On that note, we are in a slightly different platform than we have used in the past. So if you have experienced any difficulties, just know that you are not alone in that. Please remember to stay muted so that we don't get any background noise and we can all hear the presentation. We do have it on closed captioning to help you follow along. But if for any reason you cannot hear or get your sound to work, remember that we are recording and live streaming, so you can always go back and watch the recording for anything you've missed. If we've noticed that you have somehow accidentally unmuted, you might receive a gentle reminder from us to let you know. WebEx is our state-mandated program, so here's a reminder of your screen controls. Please take a moment to notice where your mute, chat, and video layout features are. This is the agenda for today, which will include an introduction to SEL and our statewide SEL implementation plan, and then we'll take a closer look at the Arts Ed SEL support documents and have a chance to hear from our content area document writers before we close out the afternoon. Our webinar goals for today include helping you understand SEL competencies and how to integrate them into arts education. And we will hear directly from the support document writers to gain ideas for using them in your own classroom. Please take a moment to download a copy of the reflection journal that we will be using in today's webinar. This document, if you are watching the recording, you will need to submit a copy of it for your CEU certificate. And throughout the presentation, you'll see this lovely picture of my Bitmoji in a reflection of a mirror as a reminder to go take a look at the document and reflect on it. All right, Sayward. You are muted, Sayward.
Sorry. I'm going to take a few moments to just fill you in on some background on our statewide SEL implementation team. So one of the first things that we're doing statewide and across all of DPI is something that you can very easily implement into your classes and your meetings and your workplaces right away. And that is our 3 signature practices. So the 3 signature practices help us to ground ourselves as adults and as humans. They help foster connection and a sense of community. When implemented well, they can create a foundation for safety, consistency, and even joy in trainings and meetings for adults and in the classroom for students. So the 3 signature practices are welcoming and inclusion activities, engaging pedagogy or practices within the classroom. That could include brain breaks, agendas, clear transitions, so all of those things, and then an optimistic closure. So you will experience all 3 of these today in our session, and within your reflection journal, you'll see a 3 signature practices playbook, which includes lots of examples of these 3 signature practices that you could start implementing into your classes and your workplaces already immediately. So our welcoming activity today, we are going to think beyond the content and think about what the arts have provided for you or given you. What is the impact that arts have had on your life? These can be words, images, feelings, and you're welcome to share your responses through movement or acting them out, drawing a picture. You could even draw something in space if you don't have a drawing utensil, or you could type words in the chat or with this answer garden that we're going to provide a link to. And that way we can see and share everybody's answers. So take a moment, think about what are some of the words that you think of when you think of what the arts gave to you. Take just a moment. Again, these could include feelings, skills, insights, or even accomplishments or successes. Beautiful. A sense of purpose, connection, acceptance, stress relief, safety, community, confidence, self-expression, questioning. Good. Great therapy, life, safety, sense of purpose. Add spice to life. Open your eyes, joy, confidence. So we're really seeing a lot of common themes here. These are beautiful. Keep them going. We'll keep looking at them. But we would just want to encourage you to think about these things beyond just the arts content. So all of these things that the arts can offer us. And that's really creating well-established social and emotional skills. And that's something that we're already doing within our arts classes and within how we're teaching. So we're going to talk today about how to just be more intentional about what we are already doing in our classes. All right, we're going to move on to the next slide. So in partnership with CASEL and the Collaborating States Initiative, the 3 signature practices work is supported by a team that I mentioned, the SEL Implementation Team at the state level. The cross-agency and cross-division team that supports the work this is the cross-agency and cross-division team that supports work to implement statewide SEL. So you can see the work from 2019 on the left was focused on cross-division and cross-agency collaboration. And then now in 2020, we are working on focusing and leveraging these key resources. And we're going to talk more about that next. So our state plan really has these 4 focus areas: to build this foundational support plan, which is what we've been working on, and next to strengthen adult SEL competencies and capacity. And that includes teachers, very, very much includes teachers. So all adults that might be working with students, but also thinking about your own well-being, because you can't begin to teach this unless you feel supported yourself. And then we can work towards promoting SEL for students, and then we can use that data for continuous improvement moving forward. So we encourage you today to start with that focus area 2 in strengthening your own adult SEL. So of course you want to start thinking about how to implement this into your classes. But again, that first key component is what can you do for your own social emotional well-being? All right, on the next slide here, in November of 2019, we joined this Collaborating States initiative through CASEL. And so this is just, again, a summary of all of the things that we are planning to do with that implementation plan. And you can take a look at that flyer, which will give you a little bit more detail if you want to go and check that out on your own time in more detail. This is an example. This is what it looks like. So it'll give you a timeline so you have a little bit more background, because I know a lot of people are asking, you know, what is the long-term plan of this? So you can take a deeper dive there. So overall, what is social emotional learning? So there's a new definition on the CASEL website, which we'll take a look at next. But if you go back to the wheel just for a moment, and Brandon will talk about this in a little bit more detail, but you see that self-awareness and self-management are both in orange, dealing with the self, social awareness and relationship skills both in green, dealing with others, and then how all of those come together and combine together influence how we make responsible decisions. And so all of those things are centered around SEL, and the surrounding circles very much support that centered SEL. So what we do in the classrooms, in the schools, and in our homes and communities all affect that central SEL. So again, on the next slide, this is our updated definition from CASEL. So you can read this on your own time, but it is an integral part of education and human development. And without social and emotional well-being, learning just can't happen. So no, it is not the sole responsibility of teachers. It includes all of these parts coming together to really make a whole, healthy child or human. All right, we're going to move on to part 2 with Brandon.
Wonderful. So we recognize that the arts feed more than just the art content. We did that. We explored that in our opening activity. Every single person had no issue trying to figure out something that the arts gave us beyond just the ability to paint, sing, play an instrument, act, or dance. And so I think that it's not a large leap to start thinking about SEL, but we do need to make sure to do it purposefully. So here on this slide, we're taking a look at the CASEL wheel again. We focus on the child in the very middle, and we work out, radiate out in the concentric circles about how we can partner with parents, teachers, administrators, and the community. Recognizing that our community has done an amazing job, we created an interactive CASEL wheel. This was born out of the past president of NCAEA, the Art Education Association, past president, coming to us saying, you know, this is really great, and we'd love to make it really easy to show and have these references to how social emotional learning and the arts combine. And so we started out with these posters, and if you click here, you can be taken to an electronic version of these posters. But then we all went virtual, and we thought it would be more helpful actually to have this interactive CASEL wheel. When you click on this CASEL wheel, you are taken to our landing page for SEL, and then you have to, or when you are actually on the CASEL wheel, there are lots of different elements that are clickable. They're interactive. Each one of the titles, if you click on the title, you have a definition and examples of exactly what those elements are. If you click on the YouTube symbol, there is a YouTube video on that core competency. And then the D, M, TA, and VA buttons will take you to examples of the way that these this core competency is already aligned to the standard course of study in that content. D, of course, stands for dance, M for music, TA for theater arts, and VA for visual arts. Moving out to the community supports, we have our partner organizations that have SEL resources. So A+ Schools of North Carolina has resources on SEL. If you click here, it'll take you to them. Our Character Matters program, the CASEL website, North Carolina Public Schools, we will be linking straight to their SEL website when it is up and running. The Friday Institute has a fantastic, massively open online course, or MOOC, on SEL. It's basically a repository of information, and it's great for somebody just starting out in SEL, and also people who are looking for research and reading on the subject to go more into a deep dive. NCMA did a partner website with us webinar this summer. And the art museum staff there put together a whole portal on how to use art and integrate it into all content areas to support social and emotional learning. And then this website, SEL Arts, is a fantastic crosswalk between the 5 core competencies and the 4 artistic practices from the National Core Art Standards. And it's continually evolving and will soon have actual lesson plans. If you wanted to teach, for example, self-awareness with presentation, it would have lesson plans on that. Or if you wanted to teach responding with responsible decision making, you can crosswalk those things and have a lesson plan provided for you in your content area and grade band. So it is being built out a little by a little, but it will be a phenomenal resource. Definitely bookmark it for now. All right. So SEL can be implemented in a variety of different ways. If your school already is engaged in some sort of character program, that can continue to be used. There is no state mandated SEL program. SEL is more like a mindset and a purposeful way of teaching and instructing, and you'll get to hear from our educators in just a moment on that. But there is no state mandated program that anybody has to use. Just a reminder that even in the virtual environment right now, NCDPI and the Friday Institute have pointed out that SEL is an integral part of the virtual learning environment as well. This little part comes from their 7 design principles for online learning, and it says that ensuring that students have the opportunity to continue to see their place in our school community is imperative. Addressing SEL is not optional, it is critical to support our students and their learning. Of course, that's always critical, but it's definitely critical in this time where our students are not actually getting to interface with us on a daily basis. All right, I'm going to pass that back over to Sayward now. I know that was a lot. We're going to keep chugging.
Collaborative work. Oops.
I just unmuted.
Oh, sorry, you unmuted me. Yep, thank you. So as a result of interdepartmental collaborative work, the North Carolina SEL Implementation Team began leveraging existing connections between the standard course of study and these CASEL course SEL competencies. So a document started to evolve that was adapted from the insights, work, and experience of the CASEL Collaborating States Initiative team in Massachusetts. And with contributions between that document and their Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, expanded on by our DPI Standards and Curriculum and Instruction Division, along with A+ Schools of North Carolina, we've created these documents for use along with the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. So that's a whole lot of information. And let me just paraphrase again for you. So with A+ Schools and built upon what was done in Massachusetts and with CASEL, all of DPI has created these content guidance documents. So we ask A+ schools to work with us to create the arts ed documents. So every content area will have these guidance documents for you to look at across all content areas of how SEL is seen within the standards, and what are some examples of lesson plans and teaching practices that you could be doing to teach these competencies within your area. So I'm going to let Brandon talk about this just for a moment. Are you as well? Do you need to talk any more about that, or I'm okay?
It's all good.
Okay.
So, at the beginning of these documents, you'll find a short narrative of just how SEL and your content area already connect. Because as we noted at the very beginning, our content very much connects to the social and emotional needs of both us and our students. And then how integrating purposeful SEL support will strengthen your students' grasp on the content. The document then goes on to provide activities and instructional practice for use in the classroom. The activity suggestions are from our A+ partners, and they've been tailored to integrate the instruction of a core competency within your content area. The instructional practices are the ways that we support that core competency in the way that we speak, teach, and run our classrooms. So those are kind of the explicit and the implicit ways that we can support those core competencies. At the end of the document, you also see a quick reference guide of between the CASEL core competencies and the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. You will then find ways to easily locate in your curriculum where you can already infuse your instruction with each of the 5 core competencies because they've already been present in the Standard Course of Study. So the SEL competencies are already in our in our Standard Course of Study, and we pulled them out so that you can already see them explicitly. However, by integrating these competencies intentionally into our content and our instruction, we engage our students more deeply. So even though they're embedded, we need to make sure that we're being purposeful with them as well.
So you'll see links there to each of those content areas, and I put them in the chat as well. So you can explore those sort of on your own time. I would definitely go in and look at them in more detail. Here's an example where it's got the introduction. And then as Brandon goes down, it talks about how we see each of those in dance. In this one specifically, it's got for each competency, you see some sample activities, the grade band, and then also teaching practices for how you can set up your class and interact with your students. And then down there at the bottom is where you see the grade level, the SEL competency, and then the standards that are aligned with it. So definitely take some time to go through and look at them on your own time, explore your content area. We're going to provide just a couple of examples for you and highlight some. So on the next page for self-awareness lessons and activities in the arts, they surround embodying emotions and feelings and awareness of body, identity, one's culture, perspectives. So students can put on other people's emotions or role play emotions, explore how they can realize, identify, and articulate emotions within their own body and language. Providing opportunities for students to discuss and demonstrate an understanding of identity, where they are in space, along with what messages they send through body language, as well as recognizing one's own strengths and challenges, show purposeful integration of SEL into arts. So one example of that might be improvisation in dance or theater, or it might be self-portraits in visual art class. So those are just little examples.
All right. So the next one is self-management. And we know that self-management lessons and activities in the arts surround students demonstrating what they actually do once they've actually identified their emotions and feelings. Again, students are afforded the opportunity to role play how they can manage themselves in varying situations, or they can discuss ways in which they can manage their progress and motivation levels towards learning their chosen art form. So setting their own goals, self-regulated learning. Instructional practices where teachers provide opportunities for students to reflect on procedures and evaluate their own performance reinforces the intentional integration of SEL, self-management and the arts.
All right. The arts are a magnificent place to explore other cultures, traditions, and art forms. Lessons and activities in social awareness allow students to explore new perspectives while developing respect for other artistic perspectives and diverse art forms as well. And they do this by connecting the unknown with the known that they have already studied. To reinforce this value, teachers should embrace and model respect for other perspectives, styles, and art forms from diverse cultures and traditions. So really setting that example and modeling that for students is very important, and making sure that you're bringing in as much diversity into your classroom as possible really sets that tone.
In terms of relationship skills, the performing arts are a collaborative effort, and it takes a group to put on a show or any sort of performance. Ensuring that students have the opportunity to work in teams, even in visual arts, as well as modeling speaking and listening protocols for solutions and feedback are essential for helping our students develop positive relationship skills, both inside and outside the arts.
Students in the arts are constantly making decisions about their actions and how they affect their progress in their chosen art form. Reinforcing responsible decision-making centers around modeling the process in the classroom, along with providing multiple opportunities for students to make decisions, followed by discussion and feedback from peers and teachers. All of these things are done throughout all of our processes. All right, we're going to take just a moment to take a few deep breaths together. And as you're doing that, if you notice that anything might be feeling tense anywhere or tight or unsure, just take a moment to notice that, send some energy to it. And instead of saying, oh, my back really hurts or my shoulder really hurts, see if you can speak to it in a way that's more of, okay, my shoulder could use a little extra energy right now, or it could use a little extra attention. So let's do that and just breathe 5 deep breaths into whatever that place might be. Great. All right. So hopefully you're feeling that positive attention and love to that place. And we're going to move forward. We're going to take a closer look and hear from a few of our content area document writers and really get to pick their brain for a moment. First, I'd like to introduce to you Tom Nevels from A+ Schools. Tom, we'd love to have you share a little bit about what we tasked A+ with. And if you want to, are you unmuted there so that we can say hi?
Hello.
Hi. All right. So we have Tom here from A+ Schools. So first thing I will ask you is to tell us about this collaboration between DPI Arts Education and the A+ Schools.
Sure. Thanks for allowing us to be here today. A+ Schools and DPI have had a long time collaboration. A+ Schools is celebrating its 25th year in North Carolina this year, and we've been working with DPI Arts Ed on lots of different projects, including the Arts Are for Life conference, the virtual professional development video series, and contributing to things like arts coordinators meeting across the state. That collaboration helps the educators in A+ Schools know the latest from DPI, keeps us ahead of the curve, but it also helps to support a comprehensive arts education across the state, especially arts integration. In this initiative for North Carolina arts teachers, you mentioned we needed guidance documents that help to bridge the CASEL competencies and the North Carolina arts education standards. So we brought in our North Carolina A+ fellows who are working arts teachers in North Carolina public schools and leaders in arts education, and had them work in subject area teams to align those competencies with the standard course of study. and to do, like Brandon said, identify some potential lesson activities and teaching best practices that arts teachers can, and as we've heard already today, are often already using to support social and emotional learning.
Great, thank you. Why do you think it's important for arts educators to have a knowledge and understanding of SEL and CASEL competencies?
Well, firstly, it gives us an opportunity to preach what we practice. Social and emotional learning is a language that we as arts educators are familiar with and we believe in. And now we have the opportunity to step forward as teacher leaders in this important statewide initiative. Secondly, it has the potential to open doorways to collaborations and arts integration that might have been previously been perceived as closed to us. And finally, it offers us a consistent framework for the intentional supports of students and teachers at a critical moment in our state and in our nation, the larger world. These are conversations that are difficult, but they're necessary to be able to heal trauma, to be able to build understanding, and to be able to move forward towards a more equitable and artful future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tom. I'd now like to bring into the conversation Nate and Maggie, and they're going to say hello. They are our visual arts writers. And Tom's going to interview them and ask them a few questions. So Nate and Maggie.
Hi.
Hi, friends.
Hello.
Hey, Tom.
So Nate and Maggie, you worked with visual arts. Why do you feel that SEL works well with the arts?
Well, I think we've touched on quite a bit of that already in these discussions and discussing the range of ways in which we can connect. It seems like it's a really natural fit for a number of reasons. But one of the things that we're doing in the classroom is asking them to explore and to take risk and to help them navigate that in a way that feels supported. So as we are asking for that, we are asking them also to explore how they are experiencing it and to develop that self-awareness, and then in turn learn how to express themselves in their art based on that discovery that they've made throughout that process.
Just to add to what Maggie said, I would say that if you track back across the entire history of art, generally it reflects an expression, and most of the time it's an expression of kind of who you are and what you're about, or an understanding of what the greater world is about. And so all of that is social emotional. All of that connects to just that deep understanding of yourself and a deep reflection of empathy for the greater world.
So what does that look like practically in your classroom? Maggie, tell us what grades you teach and how you've been incorporating SEL.
So I'm a middle school teacher teaching 6th through 8th grade, and my classrooms are typically mixed grade levels at all times. And I make sure to equip my classroom with a broad range of materials and tools that gives them an opportunity to be introduced to things that are new to them, and helps empower them with their as they develop these skills. So you're using tools that might be new. I'm guiding them through that process. They might feel it's a little risky, but as they gain confidence in doing that, they start to see that risk was worth it, and that it's being done in a way, hopefully, that it's supported by their peers at the table, because they're all exploring together, and in ways that I try to frame the language in a way that helps them feel that it is an adventure and not something to be afraid of.
So I'm hearing a little fear, I'm hearing a little risk, but I'm hearing a lot of scaffolding that's helping them to feel supported in taking those risks. Nate?
Yes.
I would say a lot of what Maggie just said, but also I would kind of connect to one of the things that I work hard to do is kind of I begin by making myself vulnerable. So oftentimes I'll share my own art with my students, or basically kind of open myself up, because a lot of the visual arts goes along with that, that notion of, you're kind of putting yourself out there. I guess that really applies to all the arts. You're putting yourself out there in a way that can sometimes be uncomfortable. And so I try to cultivate that space in my classroom. And a big way I think that I do that is by, kind of sharing that this is my practice. I make art regularly, and, uh, putting it out into the world, and then also into my space where my students can see that vulnerability.
Again, that sort of practicing what we want our students to do, which is to be humans and to be fully well-rounded people, and to be able to share that with each other and with us. So we have to be the ones to do that first. Great reason for us to have these types of webinars. Any final thoughts, Maggie or Nate?
Well, we both would believe that the environment that we're trying to create in the classroom needs to go beyond just the classroom and be a school culture, where we believe that every room that they are in, they are feeling supported in in that language of, let's try this and see what happens, and how is that making you feel, and use that information to help you move forward. So that's it's not just a specific task. It's more of a mindset that just you have about everything that you're being asked to do on a daily basis.
Intentionality.
Yeah.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
So I would like to invite my colleague Sarah to come to the screen. I feel like this is the modern day seance, right? Sarah, are you there? Can we hear you? Can we see you?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Sarah. So tell us who you are and what your fun connection to this project was.
Well, I teach dance in an elementary school, so K-5, and I have been working on SEL stuff, I think, before we started even talking about it in our A+ work and in the DPI group. I was already working on some of that social awareness and the self-awareness, and definitely the kind of responsible decision making, and just finding ways to help kids connect through their work in my classroom.
Nate and Maggie, you have some questions for Sarah?
Yes. So what was your process as far as generating ideas for the work? How do you go about doing that? Blank slate, where do you begin?
Well, when Noelle and I started thinking about how dance connected with SEL, Noelle was the other dance person. We worked together, and her experience is more with the 6-12, the higher grades, and mine is obviously elementary. So we just had some long conversations together about what we did in our own classrooms that seemed to fit with each competency in the SEL wheel. And once we got those conversations going, we found lots of things that we were already doing that spoke to each of the competencies.
So what is it that's really excited you with all that discovery?
Well, a couple things. Number one, the amount of things that I was already doing that connected to these competencies, in the way I could just be more intentional about what I was doing to bring it forward for my students and to help them develop their social and emotional learning, I guess. And the other thing that was exciting is that I've seen a difference in my students. Like when I create lessons where they're having to think about their own self-awareness, I guess, in terms of feelings or how they are. We just finished a lesson called I Matter Because, where they were having to identify some of their own strengths and ways that they feel important, and the ways that they belong in the world, and how we could express that in dance movement. So it's been really exciting to see them take the risks to be vulnerable and share.
Mhm. So as educators, we've been bombarded with all kinds of initiatives and potentials and opportunities. And when we come to something like this that sounds really exciting, how do you tell a teacher, what advice would you have, I guess, would be to and give a teacher beginning this work? What advice would you give them to help steer them into it in a real productive way and meaningful way?
I would say start with the connections that are there. Start with what you're already doing that connects, and find ways to bring that forward and emphasize it more, and be very intentional about how you're teaching the students and leading them through these activities that help develop their social skills and their self-awareness and their ways to be respectful of themselves and others and other cultures, and just because I feel like it's there. We're doing it, and we just need to bring it forward.
You put a name on it and develop that. I would agree. So let's bring Meg in. Meg's our music consult, and let's see if we have some questions for her.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. That's a good start.
So Meg, do you want to tell us what you do first?
Sure. I am a K-8 music teacher at an arts integrated charter school, which also happens to be an A+ school.
Awesome. So what excites you about working with social and emotional learning?
Well, being the final interview, I get to tag on and reiterate what everyone's already saying, that it just validates that we're already doing this. And I feel like teachers in our situation, we really need an anchor to hold on to in all of this uncertainty and constant changes, and to know that that anchor is this work. It's written into the standards, and just being, like you're saying, everyone's saying, more intentional and finding what that is that we're already doing, and just really highlighting it, especially as arts teachers, where this is our vehicle to be expressive and emotional and to make connections with others where words may fail. You can move. It's just what we do, and that feels really good to have that in this uncertain time. So that excites me, to be able to have something to focus on that is already also validated in how we work.
Yes, most definitely. And then what kind of advice do you have for teachers? And I would guess advice would tie in with what successes you've already had. I think they probably go hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely. I think having a little bit more of the inside information, working on this summer, I was able to kind of kickstart this right away with our staff, bring it from the very beginning. So I'd say the posters are awesome. Use the posters with the bullet points. They're extremely accessible. They give great scenarios where you can just get started and see where it might inspire you to take something you've already done and put it in your own terms. I would recommend determining which competency might be the one for the most opportunity for growth, and then looking at those lessons and activities, and again, finding how you would do it in your way. You know your students best. These are suggestions. They're great suggestions. We worked hard on them, but as an idea of like where you can start, and then how do you take it to make it your own so that it can meet your students' needs. So I would definitely use the posters for the art forums as well as the lessons activities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meg, for sharing. And I think I get to turn it back over to Sayward and Brandon.
You do, and may I
Okay.
say that was amazing. Not a single person hit their time limit, so that was fantastic. You guys are very succinct. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to share, and Sayward is going to share a little bit more about some additional SEL resources.
Yeah, so here's just three links here. We have many, many more resources on our website, so you can find more. But these three webinars, we wanted to just highlight this first one is through C-Day, which is our National Arts Directors Organization, basically paraphrasing. So that's in how using SEL for reflection and growth through the arts. And that's done by several music educators that really focus on SEL within their work. The second one is integrating art to build SEL competencies. And that was done through DPI Arts Ed and the North Carolina Museum of Art. The NCMA has a wonderful, wonderful resource of a ton of SEL resources for you on there. And that can be used for all different content areas, not just visual art. And then the last one, SEL Dance and Equity, was another webinar through C-Day. That's a great one to tap into. Again, not only useful for dance, there's really elements in there that could apply for all content areas. So those are three. If you're wanting more, I suggest starting there and looking into those. And then, of course, on the next slide, we are looking. Oh, that's Brandon. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. I was going to let you go for it. So we recognize that this is very quick and that it is a lot of information and that it is 4 content areas together. So we are planning another session where we can actually let all of our arts educators have some breakout sessions with our content area writers. We are in the process of trying to find out a time where all 10 of us can show up at the same time with all of you. So we will get that information out as soon as possible, most likely in the listserv. So stay tuned. And just as a little taster, I'd love to go around maybe in the same order that you guys were interviewed and just share very quickly what was one activity or instructional practice that you really loved and that you're excited to implement in your own classroom. So let's go ahead and start with Nate and Maggie.
I'm gonna speak to kind of a larger activity that I've done. So we've kind of brought SEL into our whole middle school program, and myself and a colleague are creating short videos where we're kind of injecting SEL and creating platforms for conversation. But this introduction that that we participated in over the summer kind of opened the door for that. And then our focus really has been just kind of at the top, kind of creating a culture of vulnerability is what we keep calling it. We're really we plucked that from Brene Brown, for those of you that may be familiar with her. But we are working kind of as a staff, beginning to create that culture so then we can model that for our students. So I know that's a little bit off topic, but I just feel like that's
no, but I think that is on topic, so that's great. Maggie?
Well, in the same vein, I believe in taking it outside the classroom door into the bigger culture of the school, as I mentioned earlier. So as part of the SIT group where we are developing our school improvement plans, you bring this language to the meeting, to the committee members, if you're not a part of it, and ask how that can be tied into some of the goals of the school. And there are several competencies that can be pulled directly from the language and included in your SIT, your plan at your school to support the work that needs to be done, because very often the work that's needed is related to behavior and engagement and their success academically, and so much of that is tied into their bigger lives, so as this work does. So to me, that's the exciting part, is being able to bring it beyond just the classroom content, because I feel like we've been doing that. We just now have been given permission to use the language more openly, and that is a huge relief for me to be able to just say it.
Having a common language across all subject areas allows it to be reinforced in every content area. That's great. I love that. Sarah, what are you loving in these documents?
Well, one of the things that I love is that I was able to share a lot of the things that I do, tried and true things in my classroom that I've been doing that I found really supported these SEL competencies, and put them right in the document in terms of lessons and activities. And one of my favorite things that I think actually I developed for an A+ workshop was using emojis, and I printed them out on big, like, 8.5 by 11, and hold them up for students to see so that they create the feeling that they see. We talk about what the feeling is represented in the emoji, and then how do we create that, and how do our bodies change and move with each different emotion, so that we're recognizing those emotions in ourselves and in what we do and how we feel, and then can expand the discussion into story characters or you know real life scenarios when those feelings have come about, and we can use it in all different ways. But even starting with pre-K and kindergarten, the emojis were a great way to connect to feelings and movement.
That's great. I love it. All right. So, Meg, in 60 seconds, can you tell us what you jive with, what you're excited about in your document?
Yeah, I mean, I just jive with rereading it and wanting to do the things that Susan and I talked about, but then using that as the catalyst to try new things that we don't even have in the document. For example, our sixth graders are designing planets because they're talking about the planets, and I can do stuff with that. But now we're going deeper since we want to try to connect with them as they're remote, and the whole suite was written based on the psyche of the planet and not necessarily the deity that it's named after. So how does your planet that you're designing connect to how you're feeling at the moment, and how does your solar system of your class communicate with each other? So it's just really exciting work, and I think that I hit that 60-second time limit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we are going to start our optimistic closure here. So I'm going to let Sayward share that with you, but you will need your reflective journal. So we will share that link again in the chat in just a moment.
All right, so think about for a moment, after learning about SEL in arts education today, hearing from our wonderful document writers and learning about various resources that you have available to you, we'd like for you to reflect using the stoplight method. So red is what is something that you want to stop doing? Yellow, what is something that you want to start doing? And green, what is something that you're already doing that you want to make sure you continue? So again, that was red, something you want to stop; yellow, something you want to start; green, something you're already doing that you want to continue. Take a moment to reflect on these things. You can share them with us in the chat. Well, our chat seems to not be working so well, but if anybody wants to share these with us, we'd love to hear from you. But you will share them in your reflection journal, and you can upload that to your survey at the end of this with us.
I believe that everyone is defaulted to only send things to the host. So you have to choose who to send them to. So whatever that largest group is, the host and presenter or everyone, I'm not sure what everyone's.
I think it's everyone, but it's down below everyone else's name, I believe, at
Okay.
the very bottom. I think everyone should be able to send it that way.
But we'll go ahead and give you just a few moments to reflect. I wish we had elevator music. I won't sing.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's able to actually send it in the chat or not with this new program, but we'll be able to see them in your reflection journal. If anyone would like to unmute and share that with us for a moment, you're welcome to do so. Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Okay, red. Stop not taking care of myself. Yellow, start using brain breaks. Awesome. Oh, you're right. People can't unmute themselves right at this moment. So it should work if you want to share in your chat your red, yellow, and green. We'd love to start seeing some of those. It might only allow you to send to all panelists if it's not going to let you send to everyone. But again, the panelists would love to see your reflection also.
Keeps a certain level of anonymity as well. We won't read your name.
Yeah. But you can definitely send that to us to share. Awesome. We're hoping that you got some wonderful things today. I see another stop using I should have statements. That's great. Red, stop plowing through the day like a bulldozer. Yes, how many of us need to stop doing that? Yellow, practice brain breaks. It's so helpful. And I have more if you want more tips. I have some other ideas always. And green, try new ways of meditation and art. Excellent.
That's great. Well, on that subject, I'm 100% positive that I'm going to make Sayward do an entire webinar on brain breaks and self-care. So here are a few other ways that we have some things planned. The Integrating Art to Build SEL Competencies by the North Carolina Museum of Art. We've already talked about several times. It's linked in several different locations. We have a social awareness webinar planned with the North Carolina Symphony to talk about being sensory friendly, both in your concerts and in your instruction. It was planned for the spring a long time ago, but then we realized that no one was being instructing or having concerts, so we have tabled it until later. Crayola worked with us to do an Emotions Alive game making, and that's archived. We did a webinar on creating self-regulated learners, and that's also archived. The North Carolina Ballet is planning to do one about nurturing self-awareness through creative movement on February 17th. And then we do have these other two that we are looking forward to finding the dates for. And they are all archived in our archive under a separate SEL heading. So hopefully they are not difficult to locate.
All right, we have a couple of slides for you to look at on your own time. These are just some FAQs that you can come back to if you've forgotten anything that we talked about. These tend to be the questions that we get normally. So we'll move on to our closing business.
We just want you to please share your feedback with us. This is the link right here. Sayward will drop it into the chat. And when you complete that survey, you should automatically receive a certificate of attendance that you can submit to your local education agency for CEU credit. Please do make sure that you type in your email address correctly. I keep getting requests for certificate of attendance that were being sent to incorrect email addresses. So triple and quadruple check that that you have input your email in correctly so that you can receive your CEU certificate, because we know that is very important. This webinar is archived, recorded, live streamed on Facebook. We understand that our teachers need flexible options, and especially in this time of being parent and educator and everything else at the same time. I apologize if you've heard all of my crazy munchkins in the background during this webinar. So we just really want to say thank you for your time, and stay connected with us, especially through our listserv and on Facebook, because we will be announcing our next SEL webinar where we do a deep dive in these documents on the listserv.
And I just want to add really quickly, I know sometimes it's stressful thinking about adding one more thing to your plate and one more thing that you need to check off. So really keeping in mind that this is what you are already doing. This is what we already do in our classes and with what we teach. And so just putting that everything through that lens and saying, I'm already doing this, I'm just going to be more intentional about bringing awareness to it. That's all that needs to be done. This is what we're good at, and this is what we do. So we're here for you. We're happy to help with anything that we can. We don't want this to be something that stresses you out more. If anything, it helps you to feel like you are allowed to say, I need to take a break. I need to say no to something. Thank you so much to all of our A+ fellows for being here. We could not do this without you, and we appreciate you way more than you know.
We are going to just hang around. We recognize that it is 5:01 and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if you have completed the survey, please feel free to log off, and we are going to hang around just in order to answer anyone's questions or troubleshoot for anyone. And we will see you at the next one.
And of course, if you have any questions for our fellows, now is the time to ask them as well.